But today's question is an interesting one. I got an email a few days ago from a client of mine asking me how to remove social media icons from her website, particularly the homepage, whatever. And my reaction was, well, which one? Is there maybe one of the platforms that you want to step away from, which I always recommend? You're better off having a small number of social networks than all of them. And she said, no, I want to remove every single icon from my homepage. And I said, well, why would you want to do that? Well, I went to this conference and I was like, oh, here you go. So better than going down to the pub, I would say. But I went to this conference and the speaker said that the number one action we should all do is to remove all social media icons because they are a distraction. We're going to lose visitors. They add no value, and so on and so forth. And if the visitor hates a particular platform, they're then going to dislike your website. And I thought that was a really extreme position to have, but importantly, run the risk of my clients, causing, spending time in an activity that actually is not really making that much of a difference. So I'll share my views and I will tell you what I recommended in a moment. But yeah, I mean, what's your position on social media icons on websites? Are they a distraction and should we remove them?
Well, if anything, I'm still getting asked questions on how we can add Instagram feeds and even TikTok feeds to websites. So how we can integrate more. So sort of it's quite an opposite view. I don't think I can't see how they're a distraction. I think they're a way to build trust. I think they're a way to find out what's really going on behind the company. What's actually, websites, as we know, are not necessarily showing you what's happening today, whereas looking on social gives you a bit more of an idea on what's actually happening today. Are they active? What's being currently said? So my instinct is that not having social makes it more difficult for me as a client or a customer to get to know you and to buy into actually wanting to develop the conversation further. So yeah, and I guess playing devil's advocate, if you have social media platforms that haven't been touched for 5 years, or even a year, and there's no updates and there's nothing on them, then I guess that doesn't help. So it can hinder by having links to your social media where you just haven't been active whatsoever. But I don't think we'd ever promote non-active social media accounts. We might promote just focusing on one, maybe, but I think unfortunately social media is really important to have some kind of presence.
Yeah, I mean, I have to concur with you. I thought it was just such an extreme view because the opposite is, for me, the absence of indication that you're active on social media is not helping your brand whatsoever. People would be surprised, I would say, in 2023 onwards, that you don't have at least one. And I like, I've seen more and more websites now with just one icon, but they put all the energy to create a wonderful social, media content experience. And for me, it was more this idea also of, I don't actually agree with the view that someone's going to go on your website after a desire to know more about you. Perhaps they met you at an event, or perhaps they responded to, actually, of all things, a social media post and so on. They arrive on the website with the desire to know more about you. They see a little icon in the top right hand corner or the bottom left, whatever you've done, and then somehow they feel compelled to leave the website to go on social media. I don't believe this happens whatsoever. I think the likelihood is people glance, they get some form of reassurance that you are active on social media, but they're going to pursue their quest for knowledge and information and ways to trust you. Afterwards, indeed, for a second, third, fourth visit, they may say, do you know what? Actually, I don't want to miss out on any information. Let me find out a bit more about what they do on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. And I use the icon. And I think for me, then, back to your point about the feeds, if you are particularly proud, not only of your website, but the way in which you do things on a platform, then there should be actually a very strong and evident call to action to join you. And you could even summarize the value of joining you on social media and how that complements the website. But I just can't, see, and maybe there's data that was going to prove me wrong. I can imagine someone going on your website, Johnny, they see the little IN in the corner, and that's it. They leave to disappear on LinkedIn. I think I'm going to go, yeah, of course, Johnny's on LinkedIn. I must remember that, but let me pursue my website visit first and
Yeah,
foremost.
yeah, yeah, very much so. I think it's all about, you can create communities on social media, and if anything, you should be signposting people there.
Yeah. So you've guessed as much. I recommended that my clients ignore these. Was it an advice? Was it a tirade from that speaker? I'll never know. But I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, if I may, Johnny, then, parallel to that. So uh, we do rationalize, I do recommend people remove a small number of, so we're left with maybe 2 or 3 good social networks. The conversation right now is, so do I change the Bluebird to X, or do I leave the Bluebird? What say you, Johnny Ross?
I think the answer is it does need updating, and my answer is that embarrassingly, is my own website updated yet? I'm not sure, but I would absolutely suggest that all websites do update sooner rather than later, because I think it's unfortunately a bit like seeing an old year in the footer. And it just shows you that you're not as up to date as you should be.
Yeah. Even though the URL is still 20twitter.com/whatever, and even though you may have to change it again when Elon Musk changes from X to something else.
Yeah, well, yeah, you've got a fair point. You've got a fair point. And listen, perhaps the speaker that was suggesting to remove those social icons is listening or watching right now. Come and challenge us. We want to know why. We want to get into the detail. We think you're wrong, but we're also up for being challenged.
And for our viewers and listeners, let us know, where do you stand? Are you still with the bird, or are you going with the X?